Now, another aspect that a lot of people don't realize is one of the theories in relation to our current state is the neo-Darwinian theory of evolution. And I just want to make an emphasis here. It is neo-Darwinian evolution that we have an issue with, not evolution in and of itself. Anyone here studying biology? They don't want to be put on the spot now, that's why I'm not raising their hands. Huh? You'd be tested. Anybody studying biology? You are? He's runs in. Tell me, if you can, in a loud voice, what is evolution? I'm not talking about neo-Darwinian evolution. What do you think a very simplistic term for evolution is?
Survival of the fittest.
That's neo-Darwinian evolution. You're being indoctrinated, by the way. No, I'm joking. Evolution on its own. Okay, very good. Excellent. I will simplify it even more and say change over time. It doesn't necessarily mean improvement. It just means change over time. Is that non-existent in our religion? Can you say, no, that's not part of Islam? That's why we have to be very careful when we say evolution is not a part of Islam. We see the most miraculous, wondrous change over time, unfathomable change over time before our very eyes. That a fluid from one species, from one gender, to an egg in another gender, that is imperceptible to the naked eye, over a short period of time becomes living, breathing, sentient beings that can send things hurling through the universe, the solar system. Is that not change over time? That's change over time, is it not? And so what we are against is the idea that change over time happens in an undirected, unsupervised process. That change over time happens because of survival of the fittest. Change over time happens because of accidental causation. Change over time actually creates far greater complexity to creation. It doesn't simplify it. So if you add the element of change over time, you're adding to the complexity. How does change over time occur? Every human being, down to its base components, is made up of a line of amino acid and amino acid chains. So there are machines in your body that produces amino acids, and then there are other mechanisms in the body in which get the right amino acids in the right order and create an amino acid chain which then folds perfectly and produces a protein. That's what is happening at a protein amino acid level. And then these proteins then eventually become the tissues and the organs in your body. For evolution to occur in which there is an improvement, that amino acid chain has to change so that different amino acids are in a different sequential order in the amino acid chain, which then folds to become a functional protein. There was a biologist by the name of Professor Doug Axe, who actually said, what is the probability of this happening by accident? He actually analysed, what is the probability of amino acids changing and the protein to still be functional? And his result was 1 in 8 trillion for that to happen by accident. It's easier to find an atom in the solar system than for that to happen by accident. And so, if neo-Darwinian evolution was the cause of this universe coming into being, why is its greatest product, let's say, its greatest critic and opponent? You know, many people will come to an agreement that the human being is one of the most complex creatures in creation. Our biologist is gone. How many cells in one single human body? Who can tell me? human body? Who can tell me? How many cells in one single human being without looking at Google? Anyone know? Anyone want to guess?
7 trillion.
7 trillion? Wow, that many? Okay, who else can guess? Any other guesses? 1 million? You know, there was a Sheikh that came from England, we did a panel together, and he said the human being is so complex, he has about 100 billion cells in his body. And after the lecture I said, Sheikh, that was great what you said, but we don't have 100 billion cells in our body. He said, well, how many do we have? I said, well, we have 100 billion maybe in our nose. But the whole human body, the consensus is about 50 trillion cells. In each cell, there are 42 million proteins. And in each protein, there is on average about 500 amino acids. You know, Sheikh Ahmed was talking about studying, being able to count the favors that Allah has bestowed upon us. You would never be able to enumerate them, a Quranic verse. لا تحصوها. And I actually gave a presentation on this very point. Our dear brother that is sitting in front of me, listening so attentively, mashallah, has 55 trillion cells multiplied by 42 million proteins, multiple, could be billion, I have it on my notes, multiplied by 500 on average, at least, amino acids. And so, I wanted to find out how much can we possibly count as a human being in our entire life. So I looked up the Guinness Book of Records, and there was one gentleman from the US who actually undertook this study. And he's recorded as the person that has counted the highest number allowed. He slept for 6 hours and the rest of the day he counted. And he counted to 1 million in 3 months. In 3 months he counted to 1 million. So over a year, that would be, how many? 4 million in a year. Let's say the average life expectancy of every human being, some live longer, some live younger, is 70 years. Yeah? Then in 70 years, you would only count up to about 280 or 290 million. So how many cells in the single human body? 55 trillion by 42 million by 500 amino acids. So he wouldn't be able to count the amino acids in his own body, right? In your body, for example, he'll fall short. Then I said, why don't we multiply that by 7 billion? Every single human being on earth played a part in sharing how many amino acids they will count in only your body. It still falls short. So if every human being did nothing from birth, miraculous like Isa alayhi salam, being able to communicate from the crib, started counting. As soon as you exited your mother's womb, you start counting until your death. Every single human being together, collectively sharing and counting different amino acids would not be able to count the amino acids in just your body. And then I studied further, doing my calculations. What about 500 generations of human beings? For 500 generations, if people did nothing and their only ambition in life was to help complete the count of the amino acids in his bodies, even in 500 generations, if humanity did nothing but try and count the amount of amino acids in his bodies, they would fall short. So we have to, when we read these verses, we have to really delve into a little bit and try and understand the magnitude of what Allah is saying. We would fall short in just counting the amino acids in his body. And so isn't it interesting that if Neo-Darwinian evolution was in fact the primary cause of our existence, and the human being is one of the greatest living entities in his creation, why are the greatest of human beings, in essence the greatest of creation, the greatest advocates of Neo-Darwinian evolution? You're talking about who? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, first and foremost. What is he proposing? What is he the advocate for? What message is he delivering? Where did creation come from? Who was responsible for creation? One God. What about Jesus?
2 billion people follow Jesus up until today. Almost 2 billion people follow the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ up until today. And then Moses. And all of these great prophets are advocates for what? One God. And they are the critic and opponents to the idea that the universe came about by accident. And so even this, to the inquisitive mind, should lead them to understand that it cannot be by accidental causation. Rather, there must be an omnipotent and omniscient creator that brought this about. Notice also, the inquisitive mind is connected to the universe that has so many wonders, so much artistry, so much perfection. And then the inquisitive mind is drawn to not just any mediocre individual, not just any layperson, not somebody who used to be telling lies and fibs and conning people, a charlatan. It is somebody that everybody trusted to such a degree, even before his prophethood, that they called him Al-Amin, is the one that delivers the message that there is only one God and that the creator of the heavens and the earth and the origin of the heavens and the earth comes from this one true God.